Introduction. Most people never finish the books they buy. So here is advanced health technology summarized for you, the powerful ideas and key takeaways all in one place. Here is what is coming up, a quick overall summary, then a section-by-section breakdown of the most important points. Overall summary. Data transformation is also a key point to keep in mind as you think along the lines of technology integration, interoperability, and data aggregation. Hudson Chapter 2 Closing Knowledge Gaps, Critical in Advanced Technology for Medicine, Building Shared Knowledge to Drive Down Risks in Medical Technology. William C. So, if we are the patient looking to augment our healthcare knowledge and our understanding of healthcare-related technology, where do we go? Interoperability and technology integration. What is the purpose of interoperability in healthcare and do knowledge gaps affect it? Chapter 1, Data and Transformation. Tackling barriers to rapid, exponential acceleration of advanced technologies in medicine. 1. What to know about data transformation for advanced technologies in medicine. William C. Hudson, Shantanu Chakrabarty, and Sherry Duville. 2. Closing Knowledge Gaps, Critical in Advanced Technology for Medicine, Building Shared Knowledge to Drive Down Risks in Medical Technology. William C. Harding, Victor Sinzig, Craig Hips, Neil Petroff, David Rotenberg, Brittany Partridge, and Sherry Duville. 3. Tech misinformation and medical misinformation as evil twins. The Misinformation Path to Destroying Trust in Medical Technology. Sherry Duville, Michael DeCourt, and Kate Liebolt. Management and Leadership Competencies and Objectives for Driving the Science, Medicine, and Engineering of Advanced Medical Technology Forward. 4. Allyship in Reducing Medical Technology Risk, Why Partnerships Are Vital to Your Professional Success. William C. Harding, Mike Ng, Brittany Partridge, and Sherry Duville. 5. Extinction is imminent without effective transformational leadership, Closing Leadership Gaps that Prevent Execution. William C. Harding, Michael Ng, Brittany Partridge, and Sherry Duville. 6. Ignore the dangers of hubris at your own risk. Mitigating the barrier to trust and respect for high-performing teams in medical technology. 7. Humility as a core value for the adoption of technology in medicine, Building a Foundation for Communication and Collaboration. Brian D. Macbeth, Brittany Partridge, Arthur W. Duville, and Felix Enkel. 8. Burnout in Information Security, The Case of Healthcare: How Cybersecurity Enables Deployment of Advanced Technologies. 9. Security Frameworks as a Foil for Larger Management Issues. Mitch Parker, Brittany Partridge, and Allison J. Taylor. 10. Managing Third-Party Risk, Framework Details for Risk Management in Medical Technology. Mitch Parker, Brittany Partridge, Eric Svetkov, and Allison J. Hudson, Shantanu Chakrabarty, and Sherry Duville. Need for data transformation in healthcare where quantum computing can make a difference. Cybersecurity and quantum technologies for healthcare. Data transformation means different things to different people, and if you aren't aware of what data transformation means in your business, then continue reading as we seek to characterize it in relatable terms. For example, transforming data can be related to applying additions, subtractions, encryption, compression, interpretation, masking, and even the existence of corruption. But even more importantly, when you think about data transformation, you must be looking through the lens of data integrity and data security. That said, this chapter will provide you, the reader, with a solid overview of what is data transformation, with an emphasis on considering data transformation within medicine/healthcare/life sciences. According to Augustine, 2017, the transformation of data occurs between a multitude of dissimilar solutions. With that in mind and in consideration of the issue of disconnected healthcare technology, it is proposed that there is a need within healthcare communication solutions, i.e., interactions between humans, hardware, and software, to function and exchange data interoperably across dissimilar models/foundations, where, according to Venegas, Fernandez, and Maldonado, 2016. Interoperability represents securely transforming data using standardized interfaces, Cook et al. Specifically, the need that is being described is the ability for solutions to securely exchange data between all elements of healthcare environments, facilities, and organizations using standards and practices that promote seamless error-free data transformation. Whereas, the transformation of data is a process that should occur between all components of a healthcare environment, which involves the interconnection of dissimilar elements, i.e., people and technology, such that data is received, shared, and processed. The Oren et al. Chapter 2, Data and Technology. According to Cook et al., the issues associated with healthcare solutions not being able to seamlessly transform data between dissimilar technology is rooted in the processes associated with assessing, integrating, and sustaining new technology into healthcare environments. Accordingly, the issue of needing seamless data transformation represents a gap in existing technology adoption models to examine the perceptions of all relevant stakeholders as their technical experiences potentially influence assessment, decision-making, adoption, and sustainability of transformative technology, Cook et al. Specifically, the ability to transform data is presently accomplished using methods such as non-standardized electronic healthcare/medical records, EHR/EMR, and data protocols that connect the vast array of dissimilar healthcare components. Furthermore, and according to Mandel, and Kohani, 2015, variability between solutions is an issue where the absence of a standard communications method for transforming data will result in data instability across the multitude of dissimilar technology. In using EHRs/EMRs to solve the issues of data transformation between dissimilar technology, the healthcare industry is attempting to connect technology using a solution that was created for the purpose of addressing billing issues. Zhang, Abraham, Novak, Reynolds, and Gettinger 2016. Kraus, Schiavone, Pluznikova, and Invernizzi, 2021, suggested that healthcare environments that can successfully integrate transformative technology will be able to seamlessly transform data across dissimilar technology and ultimately provide improved patient care. The point of data transformation emphasizes that there is a need for the healthcare industry to consider technology integration from a higher level, where the adoption of transformative technology represents a potential for improved therapeutic outcomes, reduced human error, and sustainability within the scope of adaptive solutions. Input connectors. An input connector takes data that enters a transformational engine through a data queue and stores the data in a data stream to be processed separately by the execution layer of the engine. Within the scope of this discussion, an input connector is an element of a transformational engine, which facilitates the transfer of data between dissimilar technological solutions. Interoperative. It is the ability for humans, hardware, and software technology to connect and communicate using a standard protocol, where data may be transformed across dissimilar technology. Wager, Lee, and Glazer 2021. Technology that is considered interoperable represents solutions that are able to connect with other technology and exchange data using standardized protocols through a common interface such as is characterized by a transformational engine. 2015, that showed technology cannot be considered as successfully integrated within an environment if that technology is incompatible with existing technology. Output connectors. Output connectors take data that is changed into a different format by the transformational engine and pushes that data into queues that pass the data to designated target locations. Need for data transformation in healthcare. There is a need to examine more than just the potential benefits associated with adopting new technology, where technology adopters must consider the risks of misuse as well as the ability to secure any and all data that is transformed across new technology and existing technology. That said, and within the scope of manufacturing environments, there is a need to deploy technology solutions that work interoperably with existing systems, such that seamless transformation of data is needed. International aerospace teams are conducting quantum experiments dedicated to quantum use in satellites, enabling faster data transfer and better data encryption. In terms of the future of data transformation through the lens of quantum computing, here are a few questions to consider and possibly answer. If data can exist in two or more locations at the same time and that data state is mirrored in all locations, how do we apply an equal amount of protection for that data in all locations? Can the ability of quantum computing to assess many images and data very quickly improve predictive analytics for the TIPS elements? Can distributed big data and analytics, injecting quantum, locally or centrally, improve health outcomes? Cybersecurity and quantum technologies for healthcare ensuring data, devices, and humans remain safe in the increasingly digitally transforming world of healthcare is of the utmost importance. While the leverage of advanced technologies can bring great potential value, these technology innovations can introduce increased risk of digital attacks which could compromise privacy, protection, safety and security of data, devices, and humans. We must design security into healthcare devices and solutions from the beginning. As detailed in this book in Chapter 11, Securing IoT Data with Pervasive Encryption, pervasive encryption is a strategy in which data is encrypted everywhere it travels and/or resides, including data in transit and data at rest, at multiple layers of the computing environment. Chapter 3, Data and Knowledge. There are new technologies on the horizon to secure the clinical Internet of Things, IoT, data and devices, including homomorphic encryption, crypto anchors, and quantum technology. Researchers are building low-cost quantum-based security solutions which can be applied to improve cybersecurity for healthcare from devices to data and the medical supply chain. Advanced technologies can improve the TIPS trust, identity, privacy, protection, safety and security of data and devices in connected healthcare and mobile medicine, but there is more to do. Harding, Victor Sinzig, Craig Hipps, Neil Petroff, David Rotenberg, Brittany Partridge, and Sherry Duville. Technology integration and interoperability. Knowledge gaps across cultural and geographical diversity. Space Shuttle Challenger accident. Results of failed knowledge transfer. Swim lanes, or building team alignment and synergy. A cognitive approach to understanding and motivating knowledge sharing. Interoperability and technology integration. What is the purpose of interoperability in healthcare and do knowledge gaps affect it? What role might AI play in reducing knowledge gaps? Artificial intelligence, AI, in reducing or widening knowledge gaps. Knowledge gaps between stakeholders can be costly in business, specifically as those gaps represent misunderstandings or even a lack of understanding of how things might work together. For example, without an understanding of how healthcare data could be used, it is possible that important data is discarded or ignored. Rodriguez et al. Whereas, by listening to the needs of end users, i.e., relevant stakeholders, we gain an understanding of how important all data is and how that data might teach us something that we didn't already know. That said, a similar conclusion can be drawn regarding how gaps in knowledge associated with cybersecurity can result in corrupted or compromised data. Thus, a need to reduce knowledge gaps and reduce risks to a business or even a patient could represent the difference between life and death. In considering what data is important, it is also possible for the converse to be true. Data, or at least data relationships, can be considered important, but only leads to further obfuscation. The latter is notorious for purposely fomenting misunderstanding and, therefore, increasing knowledge gaps. Technology integration and interoperability. With a clearer grasp of what is meant by knowledge gaps and the risks associated with knowledge gaps, we examine some of the areas and concepts where knowledge gaps can have undesired consequences. Intro. Technology integration for the purpose of exchanging and transforming data represents the central theme associated with interoperability. Definition: interoperability is the ability for humans, hardware, and software technology to connect and communicate using a standard protocol, where data may be transformed across dissimilar technology. Wager, Lee, and Glazer 2017. Summary: technology integration and interoperability. Interoperability may not be an obvious point to consider when we speak in terms of reducing knowledge gaps, but in the healthcare and life sciences world, the issues associated with ill-conceived transfer of knowledge/data/information do in fact represent a major barrier to successfully reducing knowledge gaps. So, as we think about the elements, behaviors, and methods associated with creating successful interoperability, we need to consider how a lack of vision toward data and technology interoperability represents one of the biggest barriers to the successful transfer of knowledge. It is ironic that while we may be drowning in data, a smart hospital generates an estimated 5 terabytes of data/day, we have been unable to leverage that data to improve outcomes. It seems technology will be vital in closing gaps in these cases. The former has a workgroup in Health Communication and Health Information Technology, HC/HIT. One objective of the HC/HIT workgroup is to increase the proportion of adults who use IT to track healthcare data or communicate with providers. Ultimately, if the clients cannot get to the healthcare, then the healthcare must be brought to the client. Knowledge transfer plays a major role in mitigating risks related to reduced collaboration and slowing innovation. Chapter 4: Knowledge and Gaps. At least they provide common knowledge and a reference point to reduce knowledge gaps. For the integrator/partner, this gives them the opportunity to assess how a specific technology can be configured and tailored to meet the end user's needs. This may relate to understanding where a new technology might fit into an existing business process, or how a technology can be tailored to a specific use case. Ultimately, involving end users early on is essential for mitigating the potential for knowledge gaps. In healthcare, an example of this is the use of an automated external defibrillator, AED. As a corollary, we discuss, compare, contrast knowledge gaps with skills gaps. For example, the world is constantly changing and technology is changing faster than most things. Specifically, the technology sector has made a huge leap, from technological to HR issues, such as remote work. Whereas we examine reducing risks in the healthcare industry, we must remain adaptive and flexible in our desire to remove barriers and close knowledge gaps. Consider also that if knowledge gaps are reduced, the perception of risks will change. Are people with less knowledge of something more likely to take risks, or would the lack of knowledge make them more fearful of taking risks? Reducing knowledge gaps and encouraging behaviors to reduce gaps. When discussing knowledge gaps, there are some important traits and behaviors that we need to recognize and embrace as it relates to establishing a foundation from which we can listen, empathize, and reflect. Demystifying technology/relatable tech. The proposal that technology can be demystified triggers some basic thoughts related to how we might go about explaining technology in relatable terms and to what extent we should seek to demystify technology. But do patients understand how an alignment of the data from those technologies might paint a more detailed picture of their health state versus not aggregating all of the data, specifically at the point that the entire data set intersects? How do gaps in general knowledge influence/impact/expose risks in the medical industry? Many individuals accept that there will be gaps in knowledge between a healthcare professional and that of a patient. Closing the gap between a doctor's knowledge and that of a patient represents a critical element in demystifying healthcare. With that point in mind, patients can do their part in closing knowledge gaps by not fueling organizations and individuals who do not possess certifiable skills in healthcare. Source: Retrieved from https://www.clipartmax.com/max/M2I8H7M2H7B1B1N4 Space Shuttle Challenger accident results of failed knowledge transfer. It is not always the case that gaps in knowledge can lead to disaster, but instead it is the inability to transfer knowledge in a relatable form that can lead to disaster. Further, if knowledge is not conveyed in usable form, then the resulting confusion/misinformation can widen knowledge gaps, which can have disastrous results. Take for example the 1986 Challenger shuttle accident, where those who possessed the knowledge and those who controlled the decision to launch were unable to communicate or transfer knowledge in such a way as to avoid the accident. That said, we not only need to consider the lack of useful knowledge, but we also must examine the way in which we transfer knowledge. Abdallah, Renakapa, and Suresh 2022. Using the Challenger accident as an example of how knowledge gaps form or can be widened, we must first seek to share knowledge and then find ways to convey that knowledge. Thus, we must then look for other ways to convey knowledge through a process that involves developing empathy with the target of our knowledge transfer. It's a two-way street and the whole burden isn't on the person with the knowledge. Chapter 5: Security and Device. For example, a doctor may add a group of new clinical devices and applications not vetted by the IT, security, and server/application teams. Understanding the diverse makeup of your healthcare organization's people and devices can raise awareness into potential blockers and bottlenecks in achieving critical goals such as clinical device security to ensure reliable services without compromising patient safety or privacy. Multiple teams play pivotal roles in achieving this goal, from healthcare technology management, HTM, sometimes referred to as clinical engineering or biomedical engineering, to information technology, IT, security, facilities, desktop management, server/application, medical device manufacturers, MDMs, and others. The IT team is tasked with ensuring network connectivity and often manages the Network Access Control (NAC) system for all connected devices, both medical and non-medical. The security team sets policy and may also manage the organization's firewalls and other security devices. It is not uncommon for HTM, IT, and security teams in this example to have unique objectives and expectations. For dysfunctional clinical IoT device security teams. 5. High-functioning clinical IoT device security team. Roles can be use case specific such that identity for connected medical devices may be handled by one team, identity for non-medical another, and identity for servers and medical applications yet another team. However, the execution of security and privacy policy can be led by individual teams responsible for a specific aspect of the security architecture. Large healthcare organizations are often hindered by separate, monolithic tools and processes. For example, within your organization, is there a standard process to onboard new clinical devices? Is the device properly tracked in a system visible to the HTM, facilities, security, and IT teams? Due to the convergence and interdependence of the different teams, holding data hostage to a given team is often counterproductive. To ensure proper coverage, the clear definition of roles and responsibilities can prevent gaps in clinical device security. Similarly, is a nurse call device managed as a medical device or media device? Is a workstation or mobile device that is used to transmit patient data managed by HTM or the desktop/mobile management team? That said, let us examine a little more closely both motivation and collaboration theory, as we explore improved methods for knowledge sharing. Aligning collaboration and motivation theories. The theories of collaboration and motivation appear to be only vaguely aligned. Where collaboration implies cooperative engagement and motivation is principally evaluated through the lens of the individual. So, when thinking in terms of interoperability and more specifically technology integration, are we considering the aggregation and the transformation of data through the lens of an attribute's availability versus utility? Additionally, when thinking of interoperability, shouldn't we be considering data security needs such as those represented by the IEEE/UL TIPS, trust, identity, privacy, protection, safety, and security standard principles? Considerations and risks. Interoperability assumes that technology acceptance should evaluate technology and social aspects to identify methods for technology integration, while also considering 5 factors that influence technology adoption. The combination of these 5 factors is appropriate at any phase of integration, e.g., assessment, decision-making, adoption, design, development, deployment, and sustainability, where the concept of solution interoperability embodies human, hardware, and software influencers. However, that point was missed during the implementation of EHRs and EMRs, where technology int. Closing. That brings us to the end of our review of advanced health technology. Thank you for listening. If you found this helpful and would like more book summaries like this, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Tell me in the comments which book I should review next, and I will see you in the next one.